So in the last episode, we covered all the prep before spray foam and the actual spray foam process. So this is where you're going to end up when the spray foam goes well. Do not use the DIY kits. Just find a reputable, smaller contractor near you. You can save some decent money if you just go to a project site they have already going on and show up and have them fill in your cavities while they're doing that work. So we'll talk in this episode about putting up the ceilings, the wall, the floor, and then in the next one we'll cover cabinetry. So ideally, you want to do your ceiling first. That way your walls can support your ceiling, uh, but you also want to do your floor before your walls so there's not a gap. So what I did, I measured every one of these boxes 3 times over. And I put these little blocks up to help me hold the ceiling up. While I screwed it in. So I measured out where all the strips are so I can pre-drill the holes and countersink them in the panel, and then I can drill the pilot holes in the furring strips. So here I go testing out just one light, and then just continue on with the rest. You want to make it so that ideally, like where these furring strips end and overlap, you don't really want the wood to end up in the same spot. You want to stagger them. So just plan that out. I did it in CAD, and it all ended up working out how I expected. I try to line up these lights also. Like I try to line up, for example, this light is right in front of like right by the kitchen sink. And then these lights are right outside of the shower. These are just above your head while you're sitting on the desk. And these are just over the desk to illuminate the desk. So try to plan that out so you don't only have a light back here and then you're sitting at the desk and your body casts a shadow on the on your work surface. That's kind of annoying. All right, so you've got your ceiling up. The next step is your walls. I chose to use 1/2-inch birch plywood on my walls. Again, I'm going with birch because it's definitely a lot more stable than pine. And what I'm doing here is all my protrusions through the walls for wiring, plumbing, whatever it might be. This is an AC line set that I've yet to use and probably will not, but we can talk about that in the air conditioning and electrical episode. So I'm just measuring the center point of all these wires coming out and just drilling big 1/2-inch holes through the wood to stick them through. Now this is going to go inside a cabinet. It's going to be an outlet box on top of it. This is going to be a plug mold strip in the kitchen. This is power for inside of a medicine cabinet for charging like your shavers and that kind of thing. This is garbage disposal power, and just I ran some extra wiring throughout multiple places. This is for a fan. There's another wire for a fan back over here, but this isn't really something you have to cardboard out. It could help, but just a lot of clever measuring made this easy for me. I made some cutouts for Rixon's touchscreen control panel, which has a different purpose now. Some outlets for charging 12-volt devices, a light switch, a Victron GX touchscreen, and I have some outlets back here behind the bed as well. So plan those all out. Just things that have outlets that are inside the wall have boxes set up, and these are really for like plug molds. So this is what I talk about when I say plug mold. It's just like a strip. It's essentially a power strip that you screw to the wall, and you can feed them with power from the sides or the back, and they're just all hooked up in parallel. You can just find them at Home Depot, Lowe's, etc. This wire in the closet's currently unused, but I do have it there if I want to use everything. And you can gang up a bunch of stuff on the same circuit, but I just chose to make every wire a home run. Obviously, that costs more money to do in wiring, but it just allowed me to put all my wires in one place, and then later on I can decide what circuit's on what. So you've done your ceiling, you've made your wall panels. Now you take all your wall panels out, and then you're going to prime the back side of them. You could prime the back and the front. I chose to spray the front side for a better finish. I sprayed, sanded, and wet sanded just to give it like a very residential drywall sheetrock latex paint look instead of typical van stuff. I wanted to look a little more like a house. Now you take all your wall panels out, and I chose to use some of the thicker, more luxurious vinyl sheet. I believe this piece was like $200 or something. It was relatively inexpensive for flooring. I wouldn't recommend using LVP. You're going to get a lot of moisture in any van, no matter what you do, and it's going to want to buckle on you. So just use this stuff and use flooring glue and spread it out nice and even. And what I did, I had a lot of cardboard left over from the spray foam job. I took it outside and leaf blew it a little bit, and I laid it out. I cut it all up and laid it out and taped it all on top of each other on the floor. Then I laid my vinyl out on the driveway, put the cardboard on top, drew with Sharpie, and cut it out with just a box cutter, razor knife. And I gave a little tiny bit of gap along the edges. And you have 1/2 inch birch plywood coming over top of this, so it's going to cover up any of these gaps, so you don't really need any like floor trim. And most of your like floor to wall edges are not exposed anyways, so it's not a super critical dimension to hit. I laid out all the glue on the floor, and then again, I just I put, scrappy plywood on top of everything, put as much weight I had, water bottles, toolboxes, tools, anything I had just to glue them down. Then I put my wall panels back up on top of the floor, and you can see here my outlet boxes. I have both 120 and 12 volt in just about every location, so you can plug in like a car phone charger. That way you don't have to turn the inverter on to use that, and it's a little bit more efficient just keeping everything DC as much as you can wherever you can. Then I started working on my kitchen. Here's my chest fridge freezer, and I used drawer slides I blocked up the drawer slides like this, and then I put caster wheels. Well, they don't pivot, but they're just wheels on the end of the platform. So when you pull this drawer slide out, there's a lot of weight in the fridge, and the wheels can just ride on the floor, and then you can push it back in. And I ended up just using like what do you call it, a T-bolt type of just lock. You just slide it into a hole that's in this piece. Again, I used absolutely way too many screws on just about everything everywhere. But everything's made out of 3/4 plywood and like all the furniture that sticks out of the walls. And I just want to make sure that it's constrained very solidly on surfaces that touch each other so that things don't flex around. And I reused, like, if I have a wall up for something, it's the wall for the next thing adjacent to it. So this finishes the fridge cabinet. There's a drawer that goes on top of this. I ended up just making one very large, very deep drawer, which, because I don't have a support going down the middle, and I wasn't confident I could get enough strength. But right now I'm pulling this fridge uphill. It's kind of a two-handed process. I actually still need to put a handle on this fridge, which I have not done, and I just haven't needed to. You just put a hand on top and bottom and pull it back. It works pretty good, unless you're at a severe angle. And here's that. This wall on the van was not square, and instead of shimming the framing behind it, I decided to just shim the drawer slides. I use the same concept for building the closet. This is just a piece of 3/4 birch. And what I'm doing to make it a little bit more secure is I'm cutting 2-inch furring strips, screwing those to the wall, screwing this piece into that piece, as well as pocket screwing it into the wall panel. So I'm kind of constraining it from two perpendicular angles. And this piece is just held up with a whole bunch of pocket screws. And this is just in a closet, so it doesn't really matter. Again, I use the same kind of blocking here. On the opposite side of the desk, this furring strip is on this wall outside, because it's just a butcher block that comes on top. I actually I didn't have access to many woodworking tools, so all the cabinets and like the dado in this upper cabinet, I just made with a track saw. If you just draw it out and take little slivers out at a time, you can get a pretty decent dado with just a track saw. And then I didn't glue, I just screwed. And this has pocket screws going in from the top down. And again, here's another one of those furring strip ideas. I think the lens is distorting this because this box is actually very square in the van. That's what these strips are for. So I just put a framing square, lined these up, then drilled them and screwed them in piece by piece to just keep everything square. The sink cabinet was very carefully measured so that the sink can drop in, and that basically defined the beginning of the shower. I didn't find a use to add a couple inches of space to the right of the sink just because it wouldn't be very useful. You're just going to hang a towel there. So I figured I'd start the shower earlier. I kind of did the same thing as inside the walls here by doubling up 3/4 plywood, and then I just left a lot of pocket screws up so I can screw the butcher block down, and that will give these cabinets a lot of their strength from above. So here's the finished result of the closet. I use these locking pieces from Amazon for the drawers and the closet door. Due to the van not being very square, I ended up having to play with shims a little bit more on these drawers, and I increased a lot of the clearances on the edges there, just for as things flex while you move around. This is a piece that a 1/2-inch piece that I had left over from the walls that I was practicing with. Obviously, it's not deep enough for the hinges or anything, but uh, it allowed me to practice on how to set up hinges and how to set up these locks before I did it in the more expensive 3/4 material that was fresh. So that's most of the furniture that's in here that I did at this stage. Uh, here is the rough cut butcher block for the sink, and then the tung oil really brings it out. So I chose to just overmount my sink instead of undermount it. It's a lot easier, and really I do like the undermounted sinks because you can just wipe water into them. But I'm not really doing a severe amount of cooking or anything in this van. The use case is for most of the time a week trip, and you're mostly just eating air fryer and oven foods. So I think in the next episode we'll cover building the shower. We'll talk about utilities and plumbing and electrical in another video. But this is really the most logical next step because it's going to be the dirtiest thing that you do if you choose to build a shower in this fiberglass fashion.